This will likely be one of the most important YouTube videos that I ever record. As a financial advisor for over 20 years, it's one of the biggest problems that I see as people are preparing for retirement and entering retirement. And it's what I call the spending paradox, and why so many retirees are quietly suffering. And I don't want to see this happen to you, so let's jump in. What is the spending paradox? The spending paradox is when people can afford to be spending a lot more money in retirement than they are, and they would actually enjoy it. They're sacrificing unnecessarily. So why does this happen? Why do people have money that they don't spend? And then they end up dying with, let's say they retired with $500,000. They end up dying with $1 million or $2 million. And they could have spent that money and enjoyed their journey, enjoyed the youth of their senior years, enjoyed the last chapter of their life so much more. And there's really 5 main reasons that people do this. And the first one is they think that they're going to be healthy for much longer than they actually are going to be. It's just human nature. As I record this, I'm 60 years old. And I still feel like I'm 30 or 40 years old. I still feel very healthy. There's almost everything that I want to do physically I can do. I have all of my mental acuities. I really don't have that many aches and pains. And I try to take care of myself. And it's just natural for me to think, well, I'm probably going to be healthy until I'm 80, or I'm going to be healthy until I'm 90. And you know what? Some people will be, but unfortunately, the vast majority of us will not. In fact, once we're 60 years old, we likely have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy active time remaining in front of us. So we really need to take advantage of the youth of our senior years. If you're wondering, hey, Azul, where'd you get that stat from? How do you know it's 1,000 weeks or less? Well, it just takes you to 80. And there are some 80-year-olds, right? From 60 to 80, you have 1,000 weeks. There are some 80-year-olds that can still run a marathon, but there's not many. So that's one. The other is the World Health Organization does a study. It's called Your Healthy Lifespan. And they break it out by countries. And there are countries where people stay healthy until their mid-70s. But unfortunately, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, countries like that, our healthy life expectancy is only 13 months past the average retirement age of 65. So it's 66.1 years. And I think the best is like 73, 74 years old, and I believe it's Japan that has the highest. But for most of us, Americans, Canadians, UK, 13 months past when the average person retires. So I want you to think about having a plan of the things that you'd like to do before you retire so you can hit the ground running and do those things. Now, the second reason that people struggle to spend money in retirement is one of the reasons people don't hit the ground running, is because it's really hard to go from being a saver to a spender, right? You think about it, we've spent 20, 30, 40, 50 years of our lives learning to be great savers, to save up for retirement. And it takes time to transition from being a saver to a spender. And so one of the things that I suggest people do is a couple years before they retire, maybe think about stop saving and start spending the money. And maybe you're saving 10, 15%. What could you do that would be fun with that money? And maybe spend that money. You're still funding your living expenses. So every year you continue to work, you're helping your retirement plan, because that's one less year that your retirement assets need to pay for your lifestyle. But what would happen if you spent what you're saving and take an extra trip, do something that you're excited about, go on a more expensive cruise than you normally would, or whatever it is. But get in the habit of starting to spend money as opposed to saving it. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. If you're saving 15%, maybe you still save 7 or 8% and you spend the other half. But I think that will help a lot of folks out, is to have a game plan before you get to retirement. So it's not like this switch, this either or. You're moving up to retirement, and then one day, this crazy financial advisor, Azul, is telling you, okay, you're retired, now go spend that money. It's hard to flip that switch, so maybe transition into it. Maybe if you're saving 15% a year and you're 5 years from retirement, maybe start saving 3% less, 3 percentage points less each year for the next 5 years. And encourage yourself and allow yourself the opportunity to spend that and do things that you would enjoy. Okay, so those are the first two reasons. The third reason is they just don't have a plan. They don't know how long that their money is going to last them. And if you don't know how long your money is going to last, of course you're going to be frugal. You're going to spend less because you certainly don't want to run out of money while you're living. So the lack of a plan, the lack of clarity just causes all of us to pull in our horns and to not spend the money that we could. And unfortunately, what that means is you're sacrificing, and you're likely sacrificing unnecessarily, and you don't even know if you're sacrificing or not. Or you might be spending too much. Who knows? People do that. I find 80% of people spend too little, but there is 25% of the people are putting their future financial security at risk because they're spending too much. And you don't want to be in either one of those camps. You want to have a solid plan, know what you can spend, and then be comfortable and have peace of mind when you're out there spending the money. Okay. Number 4, why don't people spend more money? And it's frankly, most of us don't have a pension, right? I mean, in my father's time, it was not uncommon for somebody to have a pension. And when you know you're getting X dollars in every month for the rest of your life, you can feel a little more comfortable spending that money. But when your money's in the stock market, and you don't know if the stock market's going to be up or down, then you have that uncertainty. And so you tend to spend less. And in fact, there's been studies that have been done. So let's say 2 different people can pull $100,000. One person can pull $100,000 a year out of their stock and bond portfolio, out of their retirement accounts, $100,000 a year. Another person gets $100,000 a year in a pension. Guess who spends more money? The person with the pension. And they spend a lot more money. They tend to spend at least a third more than the person that's pulling their income, if you will, out of their retirement assets. And the person with the pension can do that. Not only are they more comfortable spending that money, but they can do it with peace of mind. So what do you do if you're in that situation? The likelihood is if your money's invested well, it's likely that your lump sum, if you had how much money, the same amount of money, and 100,000 is coming from a pension, and you're taking money from the investment account, the investment account is likely going to outperform, do better than how the pension is invested. Just because a pension has more expenses associated with it is likely more conservatively invested. So what do you do if you wish you had a pension but you don't? There's really 3 things. One is a portfolio of dividend stocks. Another is a portfolio of fixed income bonds that you're getting an interest payment on every quarter, every 6 months from. So the dividend stocks, the way that would work, for most of us, it does not make sense to have a portfolio of 100% stocks, even if they're dividend stocks in portfolio. None of this, by the way, is financial advice. I don't know your situation. But I urge you to deal with a professional that does know your situation, that can give you advice on how much money can you pull out of your account. So the dividend stocks, you'd have a portfolio of dividend stocks and bonds. And with the dividend stocks, you'd have that portfolio designed for you, hopefully by a professional. And you would know, okay, you can take out this amount of money. In fact, I've done, if you search my YouTube channel on dividends, I've done a portfolio. That's my game plan when I'm retired, is to have a dividend stock portfolio. With fixed income, it's the same thing. You have bonds that are paying you a set amount each quarter. So you've got fixed income, you've got dividend stocks, and the third one is annuities. Now, you got to be super careful with annuities because they can be high commission products to sell. So when you're talking to somebody, a financial advisor, about annuities, I'd encourage you to work with somebody that does not sell annuities, or somebody that's for sure a fiduciary to you 100% of the time, and maybe just pay somebody so much per hour or for an assignment to say, if I did want to buy annuities, how would I go about that, and how would I get this? I want to have a pension-like situation, but you don't want somebody that's selling you the annuity also advising you, in my opinion, just because the incentives aren't aligned, and I want the incentives to be aligned for you. Okay, and the fifth reason that people don't spend as much, that there's a spending paradox, and they spend less than they can, frankly, is the financial advising industry. We have, for many folks, you've heard of the 4% rule. So we've got that in place. And then the Monte Carlo simulations, as a financial advisor myself, I want my clients to have as high of a likelihood of never running out of money. So to me, that's, 90% likelihood of never running out of money. But even if you have an 85% likelihood of never running out of money, that means, it's only 15% of the time you'd have a challenge. And 85% of the time you could spend all this money that you want, and maybe even a little bit more if you get lucky. And people adapt. So if you find yourself unlucky, and let's say you have an 85% likelihood of never running out of money, and you get unlucky, and it's like, oh shoot, I'm now in that 15% I have to worry about. Well, we don't go, all the way to the finish line and say, oh, darn it, I have no money left. We go part of the way there, and then we tweak things as we're going. And financial advising industry, you want to find somebody that knows who you are, that's a fiduciary to you 100%. And the two of you are partnering together and making good decisions like this. And speaking of good decisions, one of the most important decisions we have to make is when we choose to retire. And that's why I made this video up here, which talks about retiring at 65 and why that might be a big mistake, why you might want to retire before then. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.